WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 o'clock here in Dakar and 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. First, our top stories. The Burkina government reinstates death penalty for high treason, terrorism and espionage. Nigeria's President Tinubu swears in former military chief General Mustafa as defense minister. President Mahama orders comprehensive probe into mind-boggling 2025 WASA failure in Ghana.
I was speaking with the minister and I've asked them to do an analysis of the examiner's report to try and decipher what could have gone so disastrously wrong.
And reactions trail former jungler Manjang's trial in the Gambia.
But it is my legal view that if the offense with which he is to be charged with is murder, as allegations are made, then the magistrate's court would not be the right court to hear.
Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in the Central Sahel, where Burkina government has adopted a new draft penal code during a Council of Ministers meeting, reinstating the death penalty for some serious offences. The move marks a significant shift in the country's criminal justice framework, which had abolished capital punishment for ordinary crimes in 2018. Abdullah Hassan has more details in this report.
Among the key changes, Minister Bayala explained that the proposed penal code reinstates capital punishment for several offences including high treason, terrorism, espionage and others. The draft also introduces community service as a primary form of punishment and criminalizes the promotion and practice of homosexuality and related activities. In terms of financial sanctions, fines for all offences have been significantly increased, with minimum amounts raised from 250,000 CFA to 500,000 CFA for both misdemeanors and felonies. Penalties related to road traffic offences have likewise been strengthened. The Burkinabe Minister of Justice justified these increases by noting that 90 to 95% of traffic accidents that cause grief to families are caused by road users. For economic crimes such as embezzlement and corruption, the sanctions have been made much tougher to include life imprisonment when the amount embezzled or involved in the offense exceeds 5 billion CFA francs. Burkina Faso abolished the death penalty for common law crimes in 2018 under former President Roch Marc Christian Kabore with the adoption of a previous penal code.
Abdullah Hassan filed that report. We head now to Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has sworn in General Christopher Musa as the country's Minister of Defense in a major push to restructure the country's security setup. Musa's swearing-in took place at the presidential villa in Abuja on Thursday, a day after a 5-hour grilling by the Senate leading to his confirmation. Presidential spokesman Bayo Onuga also shared a photo of Musa's oath of office-taking event on his X handle. His appointment comes at a time of heightened insecurity in Nigeria, with mass abductions, banditry and kidnapping taking center stage across parts of the country. During his screening at the Senate, Musa, who is the immediate past chief of defense staff, decried the rising levels of kidnapping for ransom, but he believes with the use of technology, security agencies can track the payment of such monies. He told the senators that ransom payment fuels banditry, ruling out the need for negotiation with criminals. Meanwhile, the United States government says it will begin imposing visa restrictions on Nigerians accused of persecuting individuals based on their religious beliefs. Washington describes the decision as part of a broader push to protect Christian communities facing violence in the country. Analysts suggest that the visa restrictions signal growing impatience within U.S. circles as violence and mistrust persist in rural Nigerian communities, further fracturing ethnic and religious cohesion. At present, Abuja is yet to issue an official statement on the visa policy announcement. WDR's Abuja correspondent Usman Umar reports.
The United States has introduced a new visa restriction policy aimed at individuals it holds accountable for violations of religious freedom in Nigeria. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced these measures on Wednesday, describing it as a decisive step in response to what the U.S. perceives as persistent attacks on Christian communities in various regions of the country. According to the policy, the U.S. State Department will deny visas to individuals found to have orchestrated, authorized, financed, or participated in religious persecution. Rubio noted that the restrictions could extend to immediate family members of those implicated. This move follows heightened scrutiny from President Donald Trump, who in October redesignated Nigeria as a country of particular concern. However, Nigerian officials have refuted claims that Christians are being deliberately targeted. According to government representatives, the pervasive insecurity affects citizens across all religious and ethnic groups and is largely driven by criminal activities, banditry, and protracted disputes over land and resources. President Bola Tinubu's administration, in response, recently declared a national security emergency, initiated new recruitment efforts for the armed forces, and appointed a team to collaborate with a U.S.-Nigeria Joint Security Working Group as part of efforts to address Washington's concerns. Despite these measures, however, the U.S. continues to demand more substantial progress. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
The Ivorian government has firmly dismissed claims suggesting the presence of an Azawad office operating on its territory. The clarification follows the circulation of a video on social media, alleging that individuals linked to the Azawad movement were holding a meeting in Abuja. Augustine Kuli tells us more in this report.
Government spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly said security services conducted thorough verifications and found no evidence to support the existence of such an office in Côte d'Ivoire. He emphasized that the government cannot authenticate the video currently making rounds online, adding that its origin, location, and the identities of the individuals featured remain unverified. The footage has generated strong reactions on social platforms, stirring speculation and fueling a broader debate about separatist movements in the Sahel and their perceived activities abroad. However, authorities stress that misinformation remains a growing challenge in the country. This latest incident comes amid what officials describe as a resurgence of fake news, particularly content capable of heightening tensions or misleading the public. To address this, the Ivorian government says it has strengthened its strategy against misinformation, including public education campaigns, enhanced monitoring of online spaces, and legal measures targeting individuals or groups responsible for spreading false information. In addition to combating misinformation, the government highlighted the importance of protecting national stability at a time when security issues across the region are increasingly interconnected. Côte d'Ivoire, which has maintained a firm stance against violent extremism and separatist agendas in the Sahel, reiterated that it will not allow its territory to be used as a base or meeting ground for groups seeking to undermine regional peace.
Augustine Kuli filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In the Gambia, reactions continue to trail the arrest and extradition from Senegal of former jungler Sana Manjang. Manjang, long accused of serious human rights abuses, made his first formal court appearance on Wednesday. He was a key member of the paramilitary rogue unit linked to disappearances, torture and killings under former President Yahya Jammeh. WDL's Banjo correspondent Sang Denalmendi reports.
Manjang, a key member of the paramilitary unit linked to some of the darkest abuses under President Yahya Jammeh, faces charges for alleged killings of 3 men in separate attacks carried out during the Jammeh era. His arrest, according to many Gambians, is both a reminder of past horrors and a potential step towards justice.
For victims and families, it could be a beacon of hope. They have waited nearly for a decade since the establishment of the TRLC. But whether this moment leads to lasting justice or ends as a token gesture will depend heavily on how authorities handle the legal process.
For many years, victims and their families have been waiting for a closure. No matter how long it takes, justice cannot be outrun.
This move shows that the country is finally beginning to confront the past rather than running from it.
Civil society groups have called for careful handling of the case. Sirif Mohamed Kijera of the President Accountability Project Gambia says,
if the government is serious about prosecuting all these notorious criminals, it should have started with Solbaji, General Solbaji himself. Solbaji has been here for almost about, a year and a half to 2 years of the day now to set the precedent, to take the bull by the horn, to start prosecuting some of these crimes, that were committed during Jammeh era.
Manjang was arrested on the 29th November in Casamance, Senegal, after a joint Gambia-Senegalese operation. He had fled the Gambia shortly after Jammeh's departure in January 2017 and had remained on the run until his capture. The Truth, Reconciliation and Repatriation Commission had previously identified him as essential to multiple regimes-ordered killings. Prosecutors say his case is being moved to the High Court. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, a legal practitioner in the Gambia also weighs in on the trial of former jungler Sana Manjang at a lower court in Banjul. Here is Mohammed Nju speaking to WDR.
Yesterday, he was arraigned before the Kanifing Magistrates Court. But it is my legal view that if the offense with which he is to be charged with is murder, as allegations are made, then the Magistrates Court would not be the right court to hear that particular case, because it wouldn't have the jurisdiction. Because the law is that any offense that carries a punishment of life imprisonment or death, such cases can only be had at the High Court instead of the Magistrates Court. I'm sure the proper forum for Sana, if he is to be tried, should be the High Court of the Gambia. And I'm sure authorities will do the right thing.
Right. And talking about the kind of Magistrate Court not in position to handle such a case, should the case be transferred to the High Court of the Gambia, what are some of the punishments that are expected if he's found guilty?
Yeah, most definitely. The case as it is before the Kanifing Magistrates Court is or will be transferred to the High Court if the matter is to proceed. Especially if he is to be charged with murder, then it is the law that it has to be tried before the High Court. And the punishment for murder as per the Criminal Offences Act 2025 is life imprisonment. So if Sana Manjang is tried according to Gambian law for the offense of murder, then his possible punishment if found guilty is life imprisonment.
Mohamed Ju is a Gambian lawyer. Let's take it to Ghana, where President John Mahama has directed the Minister of Education to undertake a comprehensive assessment of the recent downturn in student performance in the West African Senior School Certificate Examination (WASE), describing the outcome as mind-boggling. Data released by the West African Examination Council (WAEC) shows a significant drop in core mathematics pass rates, falling from 66.86% in 2024 to 48.73%. Social studies performance also declined from 71.53% to 55.82%. WAEC further indicated that English language and integrated science recorded slight reductions in pass rates but remained comparatively stable. Nadia Ditete reports.
The 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination (WASE) results showed a significant decline, with core mathematics experiencing the steepest drop in performance. The number of A1 to C6 passes in mathematics fell sharply from 305,132 in 2024 to 209,068 in 2025, a reduction of over 96,000 passes. Consequently, the pass rate dropped to just 48.73%, meaning more than half of the candidates failed to achieve the grades necessary for admission into tertiary institutions. WAEC's Head of Public Affairs, John Kapi, highlighted several key witnesses observed among students in mathematics which contributed to this poor performance.
1. Representing mathematical information in a diagram. 2. Solving global mathematics-related problems. 3. Constructing cumulative frequency table from given data distribution. 4. Making deductions from real-life problems. 5. Solving application problems in simple interest. 6. Translating word problems into mathematical expressions. And 7. Interpreting of results from cumulative frequency curve.
In social studies, candidates also struggled, particularly in explaining government policies, analyzing the impact of costly funerals on national development, and discussing Ghana's cooperation with United Nations agencies. At the launch of the STEM Box initiative for primary schools, President Mahama expressed deep concern over the poor results, describing them as a major worry for the government, parents, and the general public alike.
I was speaking with the minister and I've asked them to do an analysis of the examiner's report to try and decipher what could have gone so disastrously wrong. It is mind-boggling that with the same teachers, the same factors in play, just from one batch to another, one batch does so disastrously. And so we need to get to the bottom of it.
Education experts support this investigative approach. They believe that a thorough probe to uncover the underlying factors behind the widespread failure will enable the government and stakeholders to address the issue more effectively and holistically. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Burkinabe government reinstate death penalty for high treason, terrorism and espionage. Nigeria's President Tinubu swears in former military chief General Christopher Musa as defense minister. President Mahama of Ghana orders comprehensive probe into mind-boggling 2025 WASA failure, and reactions trail former jungler Manjang's trial in the Gambia. Still ahead, we do have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Don't forget, we are streaming live on wadr.org. In Liberia, the Senate is currently reviewing a proposal that seeks to reduce the monthly salaries of sitting lawmakers. The draft bill, which has been formally submitted for consideration, aims to cut the remuneration of senators as part of a broader effort to streamline public spending and address long-standing concerns about the high cost of governance. The initiative comes amid growing public dissatisfaction over the disparity between lawmakers' earnings and the economic realities faced by ordinary Liberians. Many citizens have repeatedly criticized what they describe as excessive legislative compensation, and the country is still grappling with poverty, unemployment, and rising living costs. The proposal has triggered mixed reactions both within the legislature and among the wider public. Supporters argue that the reducing salaries will demonstrate lawmakers' commitment to shared sacrifice at a time when fiscal pressures remain high. They believe the move could free up much-needed resources for priority sectors such as health, education, and infrastructure. We spoke earlier with our Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker on this development.
Lawmakers today converge on Capitol Hill, and all eyes are on the legislature, exactly from the Liberian Senate, where lawmakers or senators today begin debating a bill being proposed or introduced by Montserrado County Senator Abraham Darius Dillon. According to Dillon, it's intended to reduce the monthly pay or salary, if you may, of all lawmakers, meaning the 103 of them, from 8,000 United States dollars to 5,000, which will constitute 37.5% in salary cut. And Dillon, who is the senator of Montserrado County, thinks that the bill or the measure would save the government of Liberia annually $309,000 when that measure, of course, is instituted.
What are the reactions coming out of the legislature, especially from his fellow lawmakers, including senators, regarding this proposed bill?
Well, some decided to push back by saying that the entire process has a political undertone. And in fact, other people from the opposition bloc think that this move by Senator Dillon is intended to score political grade, and if such a measure is passed, the glory will go to the Bouakas administration.
WDR's One River correspondent Abraham Packard there. Elsewhere, civil society organizations in Chad, united under the Coalition for Electoral Reforms in Chad, CRED, have launched a nationwide advocacy campaign calling for comprehensive reforms to strengthen the credibility of future elections. The coalition, which brings together key human rights groups, pro-democracy platforms, and governance watchdogs, say the current framework falls short of guaranteeing transparent, inclusive, and peaceful polls. Sankli Jango report.
The push comes in response to recommendations issued by election observers and mediation teams who monitored various stages of Chad's political transition. These findings highlighted persistent gaps in the legal and institutional setup, including shortcomings in voter registration, limited civic education, weak safeguards against political interference, and concerns over neutrality of electoral bodies. CRED evaluated a total of 65 recommendations gathered over the transition period and prioritized 20 of them for immediate advocacy. These priority proposals, ranging from reforms to the electoral code to greater representation of civil society in election management, form the backbone of the coalition's current campaign. According to the group, this marks the first time civil society has presented a coordinated, structured effort to influence electoral legislation in Chad's modern political history. Their initiative also coincides with developments in the country's legislative arena. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, December 2, members of parliament adopted a bill amending the electoral code, an important step that could pave the way for further reforms. However, civil society actors say meaningful change will require sustained pressure, broader consultation, and genuine political will to ensure that future elections reflect the will of the Chadian people.
Sankli Jango filed that report.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, the guest interview focuses on the United States government's latest plan to begin imposing visa restrictions on Nigerians accused of persecuting individuals based on their religious beliefs. Washington describes the decision as part of a broader push to protect Christian communities facing violence in the country. Analysts suggest that the visa restrictions signal growing impatience within the U.S. circles as violence and mistrust persists in rural Nigerian communities, further fracturing ethnic and religious cohesion. At present, Nigeria is yet to issue an official statement on the visa policy announcement. However, security expert Dr. Maji Patek shares his analysis regarding the implications of the U.S. latest announcement.
There have always been visa bans. There are visa bans for people who they felt are not adherent or promoters or protectors of democracy. There are visa bans on people that they allege are corrupt or who are people that have perpetuated corruption in the system. There are visa bans on people who they felt have instilled violence or have caused mass atrocities in communities. There are visa bans on people that they felt are not protecting the tenets of governance and democracy. And because they have said that, it is still emphasizing their whole policy of FORB, freedom of religious belief. I think there is every single opportunity that comes now, the U.S. will hold on to it to see how they could streamline, restrict, and limit immigration into their system. And then they're using that as a point of diplomatic positioning on the issue of democracy, good governance, freedom of religious, and anti-corruption and free economy.
This move comes shortly after high-level security talks between Nigerian authorities and the U.S. Defense Forces. How might these visa restrictions affect ongoing security cooperation, particularly in intelligence sharing and counter-terrorism efforts?
But the visa is not banning Nigerians from going to the U.S. The visa is banning people who are complicit in not respecting freedom of religion, or those who are felt are complicit in attacking minority groups or people who are adherents of other faiths. So I think this is more like saying that you have committed a crime, you need to be punished for it. So I don't think that should impede or that should affect the conversation that is ongoing, because the conversation is about security. The conversation is about coming together to end terrorism. The conversation is being in alliance to ensure that terrorism anywhere in the world is a problem for everyone in the world. So the issue of saying those who are complicit, it's just like saying that, okay, I'm accusing your country of breeding terrorists. And you said, no, we are not, and we're into conversation. Then I said, okay, anyone who has anything to do with terrorism cannot come into to visit Nigeria. So it has nothing to do with what we're saying. We're all saying the same thing.
Considering Abuja has not yet responded, would there be any diplomatic or security implications if Nigeria delays or avoids addressing this latest U.S. policy issue?
I don't expect the government to respond, because if I were in that position, I will not respond as well. You know, it's like asking you a question and I ask you, have you stopped beating your wife? What will be your response? If you say yes, that means you used to beat your wife. If you say no, it means you're still beating your wife. So if they say there is, and we said that, see, there is no faith, spiritual or religious intended attack or target of any group for annihilation. And we say Nigeria, everybody has a right. We respect the freedom of religious belief. And now they said, okay, anyone who is complicit on the issue of religion, anyone who is complicit on impeding the freedom of religious belief is under visa ban. Are you expecting Nigeria to go and say, no, please don't ban people who are complicit? I don't expect the government to say anything. Rather, the government will say, yes, we're happy about this position. Let's all work together. That's diplomacy.
Dr. Marjorie Pate is a security expert. And sport news, with just 18 days left before the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations kicks off in Morocco, the Benin Football Federation has officially announced the Cheetahs squad for the Continental Showpiece, signaling the final phase of their preparations for the Africa's premier football tournament. Head coach Ghana Raw, alongside his technical crew, finalized this last week after weeks of intense scouting, training sessions and player assessment. The German tactician will be hoping the carefully assembled squad can rise to the occasion as Benin aim for a memorable outing on the continental stage. Meanwhile, Angola head coach Patrice Bomoel has launched a scathing criticism against World Football Governing Body FIFA, accusing it of consistently undermining Africa Cup of Nations and failing to accord the tournament the global respect it deserves. Bumel, who is preparing the Palancas Negras for the 2025 edition of the competition in Morocco, expressed frustration over what he described as a recurring pattern of disregard for African football from FIFA. According to him, Africa's premier tournament continues to battle for recognition despite its enormous talent, competitiveness and global audience. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umudanyogo for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram, at WADR English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of our flagship environment program, Enviroscope. I am Imo Edet. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Baga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.